All right, guys, welcome back to the shack. Today's going to be a computer sitting video. So, it's most of this is going to be on the PC, so there's no need me breaking out all the cameras. But today I'm going to be playing around with the P2 and some acrylic. xTool reached out to me and said that they would like to send me a big bundle of acrylic to use with the P2. And most of you know that that's the primary reason that I wanted to get a CO2 machine in the beginning, is because CO2s do acrylic and they do it well. So what we're going to be doing today, guys, is there'll be a link down below in the description to xTool's websites where they sell their acrylics and so forth to be used with their machines. And I'm going to take the material pack that they sent me, and we're just going to kind of work it as if I was one of you guys. And you don't want to pay that kind of money for a bunch of acrylic and then have to do a bunch of testing to it and destroy your materials. So we're going to try to use the material settings that are already included in XCS and see how well that works, see if it's a go or no-go with their acrylics. And if we need to, then we can go back and do some testing and stuff of our own. But I'm thinking, from what I know of xTool and from the talking with them, I'm thinking that the settings that they have in XCS should be adequate to turn out some good work with the acrylics that we got. So if you want to see what they all look like, which they're back behind me there, you can probably see them. Got several colors, several thicknesses. It's just a big box of all kinds of acrylic. So today we're just going to be playing around with that, making a few little odd and end things, and testing the machine as well as the acrylic as we go. So if that's something you're into, stick around. We'll be right back. All right, just to give you a peek into what I'm working with, I've got one of the pieces already in the machine, which is a gold, but that's the different colors that they sent me. Some of these have glitter, some of them are transparent, some of them are completely just solid to where you can't, no light's going to pass through them. So it's gonna be challenging. It's gonna be different. I'm hoping the settings work because most of the colors only have like one sheet of each color. So that's what we're going to be playing with today, is just cutting some random stuff out of these and trying to make something that looks cool and is useful. Now, the first piece that's up on the machine is a gold, and I gotta say it's pretty cool, but I'm a little curious to see how it's going to cut on the machine. So let's get down to XCS and get this started. All right, guys, so for the sake of trying to make this video a little shorter, because I got a lot of acrylics to go through, this is the gold mirrored finish acrylic that we have on the deck now. Now, you'll notice that it looks gray from this side, and that is because this is mirrored acrylic, and it has a gray coating on the back side. You can tell by the little tiny circles that are all around the perimeter of the material that I have already done my material testing. I've come up with settings that work for this material, and I'm just going to go in here real quick and try to design a little design. And this is, guys, I don't know what to use this stuff for, and I really don't want to just totally waste it. So we're just going to do some small designs, cut those out, show you the results, the settings that I'm using, so that you can save those if you plan on ordering some of this stuff, and maybe go from there. So what I'm going to do is just I'm going to try to find me a little shape here. Valentine's Day has passed, so let's stay away from the Valentine's Day stuff. You know what? We'll just do a little shape here and put some text in the middle of it, just as a little test image. Like I said, nothing too elaborate. All right, and then I'm going to drop me some text in here. I'm going to make it say, we'll just make it say text. So size that appropriately. And like I said, if I come up with a project or something comes in, we can do a little more with this later. I want to change that to an engrave. This outer line, I'm going to need that to be a cut. I'm going to have to make it a little bigger because it's not quite big enough for that. All right, so the font, let's try to find a little better font than that. We'll do, now that looks crazy in all caps. That's a decent one. I think that'll work for our little test project. I don't have any overlaps, do I? Yeah, I got a little bit of overlap. So let me shrink that down just a little. Get it back in the center. All right, now, keep in mind, guys, we're coming through the back of this material. So in order for this text to be readable, we're gonna have to flip this. Now, since this is a shape that's not gonna matter one way or the other, we're just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna flip it horizontally. This will enable, just like doing mirrors, this will enable it to be readable from the back side. Now, one thing that I do like about my P2 is I can go up here to try to maximize my material wastage here, or I guess you should say maximize my material efficiency. I'm gonna go in here, do a close capture. I'm gonna zoom in as much as I can to try to get this thing to where it's right on the edge of the material and right on the edge of where I've been doing my testing. That way I'm saving the material, because guys, we know acrylic is not cheap. So no need to be wasting it. All right, going back, confirm my settings one last time. This is their reference that they've got, but I'm gonna be going with acrylic gold, mirrored the settings that I have come up with. I just basically took their transparent acrylic and kind of tweaked it a little bit. I went, a little faster, a little slower until I found the desired effect. So I've got those two on there. One of them is set. This one here is going to be set to the cut. That's going to cut it out. And this one right here is the text. Now, this acrylic, you could use it to make most anything, guys. But one of the things that I see with this is like little desk sitters or maybe cake toppers, that type of thing. If you've got a caterer that does a lot of catering, they may want like some little fancy little placards to put on their, displays to tell people what certain foods are, that type of thing. That's some of the different type jobs that I've either had to do or seen done in my area. So I'm gonna go ahead and send this to process. That's our preview, and that's what we want it to look like. So I'm gonna go over and hit that button. All right, guys, so that went exactly as according to plan. Here's the material that it come off of. You can see I got nice clean edges. I haven't even cleaned this with anything, so we have very little of the kind of, sometimes you'll get that cloudiness around the cuts. Didn't have any of that. That worked out really nice. And on the piece itself, I'm going to hit it with a little Windex, if I can find my Windex, just to make sure we don't have any smudges or fingerprints or anything on it, because this is mirrored acrylic, and so if it gets dirty, it shows. But show you the little piece. I should have put stop. I should have just made a stop sign. That's what I should have done. But hindsight. All right, so there's the little piece that I did. There's the text, and as you can see, the text is readable. It's actually engraved on the back of the acrylic back here. So when you're touching it, if you're touching it or looking at it, there's not that reflection, and it's kind of set back in there. So that's, if you're wanting something fancy, like for some little labels, or like I said, this would be cool, I would think, for like wedding cakes or birthday cakes. You could just put some legs on this. You could make a sign if you wanted to. What is it, national park signs? Those are pretty popular. If you've got somebody that you're making a cake for that is a avid camper, you could put a little camper on there, and just, there's all kinds of things that you could do with this. I do know that we have some caterers in town that make cakes for special occasions and stuff like that, and a lot of times they're looking for special cake toppers to use for their cakes. It adds a uniqueness to their products that people can't get in other places, and so if you're out looking for business for this type of stuff, keep that in mind, especially with any of this acrylic stuff, because plastic is plastic. So you could wash this and stick it in the cake, use it as a little decoration. They could keep it as a keepsake, and there's a market for it, guys. But I think that turned out pretty nice. It's hard to see in the pictures because it is a mirror, but there's a border around it that's a little white, and looks pretty nice. So that is going to be the gold mirrored acrylic that xTool sells on their site, and we'll go over the settings one more time before we move on. All right, so for this cut, guys, I ran 100% power, 22 millimeters per second on the cut, and on the engrave, I ran 15% power at 500 millimeters a second. So it's a big contrast, but you're not wanting to destroy or distort the material. That's the gold and mirrored finish. So let's move on to the next piece. All right, guys, off to the next color. And something I would like to throw out there that I have found while testing this material is these transparent materials with these little sparkles in it. For some reason, it is really messing with the auto aim thickness scanner. I'm guessing because it works off of a laser, and maybe it's just causing random reflection of the light. But this stuff, I'll just show you here. If I hit the auto measure button on this, it's going to say it's 6.9 millimeters thick. It's not. I just took it out and measured it with my mic, and it's 3 millimeters, like dead on 3 millimeters. So if I go over there, even with the close capture, if I go over and I measure it, it's still claiming it's 6.9 millimeters thick, which is not right. I can go over, however, to this material where my little block is, and I know that that's 2 layers of 4.5 millimeter material, and it's got some magnets on the bottom of it. So that's about right for that. So when you're setting the material thickness with this stuff, I would recommend you just set. I'm going to set it at 4, just because it's not, that 1 millimeter is not going to matter. It gives me a little overhead, but I'm going to set mine at 4 because I know that the material is actually 3 millimeters thick. All that's going to do is raise my point of focus up, 1 millimeter. But just something to be aware of. That was an anomaly that I had not seen that before with any other material, but with this material here, it was giving me a little bit of a trouble. This is clear acrylic that has these little flakes in it. So one of the things that I was thinking of with this stuff is it's not going to engrave well. I tried engraving a spot on there, and you really cannot see it because it's so busy with the different things going on. What this stuff would be good for, in my opinion, would be if you're just wanting to make, a cutout, whether it be text, whether it be a heart or whatever. I wish they would fix it to where wherever you're zoomed in on the screen is where it drops it into the workspace. But this stuff, I would see this being very useful for doing cutouts. Maybe you're going to do a cutout and you're going to take that cutout and adhere it to another type of material to be, kind of put together as like a little display or something. So I'm just going to take this little heart. I want to put it right there. I did find, however, it cuts really nicely. So I'm going to go over here to my cuttings, and I'm running the exact same settings that I ran on the acrylic and gold on this stuff, and it's doing a really good job. So I'm going to go ahead and send that over, and I'll show you what it looks like when we get it cut out. Okay, guys, that's the reason we call this testing. Apparently, it cut everywhere except this little corner. It did not cut. And I'm guessing because it ran through a high concentration of these little discoloring little additives here. So we're going to have to redo that. So let's see how accurate the close camera is and if I can even see the cut on this thing to try to line this back up like I need it to be. Luckily, I am using, however, my little jig in there, so I want to be able to get it close. We'll see if we can't get this lined up where it was. All right, I got a little bit up, just a touch right there. All right, so apparently there is going to be some changes needed to the settings. So I'm going to slow this down to about 18. I'm going to go ahead and process this one on top of the other one, see if I can get lucky and hit the same line. And then I'll probably do another shape just to confirm that that was the appropriate setting. All right, guys, so that's another testament to just how accurate this little camera is in this machine. I was able to actually go back and put it back together, and I hit the same. I don't know if it's exactly the same line, but check that out, guys. I mean, it's if it wasn't, okay, it looks like I may have just this little tiny little sliver. See that little sliver? So that's how far I was off, that little sliver. That's pretty good, though. So now that I know that setting worked to cut it on out of here, I'm going to go back. I'm going to put this little cutoff back in there, and that's the kind of material you get when you cut stuff out with this. So this is going to be more in my opinion, this clear with all the busyness in it like that is going to be more for cutting things out. And then you could take this and you could, like, you know, mix it in with some of the other colors of acrylic and stuff to make things that way. That's kind of what I see with this stuff, because you're not going to want to try to engrave on that. I don't think it's going to be hard to see unless you go really, really dark. But we're going to put this piece back in the machine, and I'm going to cut a couple more lines out of the inside of it just to confirm that my settings are correct before we move on. All right, so updated the overlay, guys, and I'm going to come in with the close camera. I've got to where I really like this close cam. I'm going to come in with the close camera, update that, and we're going to move this little cut that we did over here. I'm going to move it up there where that guy is, and I'm going to rotate that minus 45 degrees to get it back to aligned with this guy. And I'm just going to zoom on in and try to add this shape back around the edge of the piece that I cut best I can. All right, and then well, let's just do it this way. I'm just going to cut the center out of this one. I just want to line that up. All right, that looks pretty good. So what I did is I modified the speed down to 18 because it was having a little trouble where it hit these little heavy pockets of those confetti or whatever in there. It was leaving a little bit there as far as it wasn't cutting all the way through. So I slowed it down to 18, and I think that should work. So and I'm leaving the thickness at 4 millimeters, even though this is 3 millimeter material. Just gives me a little more standoff, and that little bit should not affect the ability to cut through it or not. All right, it just came up. It just hit me, guys. When I was getting this off, it cut perfect, by the way. No, the edges are really nice and smooth. Everything worked out, but it just hit me when I was getting this off of the laser. One more use for this material: earrings. See, I forget. I do have some friends that use lasers to make earrings, but sometimes I forget that, especially with the more expensive materials like this, to where your product needs to be kind of small so that you can recoup your expenses. Earrings would be perfect for this stuff because your product is actually tiny. So, and you could actually, that'd be kind of cool if you could glue this together, kind of like that. That'd be kind of nice, kind of neat. You could even put a little stick on there and use it to for like a floral arrangement or something. That'd be kind of cool. But anyway, this material, going back, reviewing the settings right quick. All right, so for that cut, guys, like I said, I didn't really do a lot of engraving with this material because I just don't think that this material is something that you're going to want to be engraving on a lot. It strikes me as more of the cutting material. So this is what we wound up going with: 100% at 8 power at 18 millimeters a second. Now, with XCS, once you determine what your settings are, you can always go in here, and this is what I'm doing with all of this set now. The first part of my name is going to be the material type, whether it's plywood, acrylic, glass, whatever. Second part of the set is going to be clear with round flakes. That way I can remember what, well, it won't. Maybe we'll just call it confetti. All right, clear with confetti. There we go. All right, so I'm going to save that. Now when I'm going through here, see, I've got the gold mirrored, and then I've got the acrylic clear with confetti. That's the best thing I can come up with. So let's move on to the next color, guys. All right, so this is getting easier the more of this material that I do, guys. Just did this one here. This is another one of the semi-transparent materials that they included in the pack. This one's like a clear acrylic, but it has these little blue flakes in it, and you can see where I just fired off a cut right there. I'm using the same settings as I did for the confetti material, and it worked really well. So this again is, I don't think this is going to be a material that you're going to want to be doing a whole lot of engraving with because of the background. I mean, you could, and with this clear acrylic setting should be more than adequate for engraving because it is clear. It's just got those little flakes in there. But we'll see what we can cut out of this one. Let's do a star out of this one. We done did a heart, and let me go find my star before I go putting a bunch of them in the workspace. But yeah, I wish it would bring them in wherever your screen is centered at. But you know, anyway, that and the whole not having to go push that button. xTool, if you're watching, could we please fix that to where we can maybe not have that go on all the time. So this would be a great material for, I think, like Christmas ornaments and just cutout stuff again, because it is a cool twist to clear acrylic. Now, what I'm going to go over here and do is I'm going to use that same setting I did with the clear with the confetti. I may wind up just renaming that clear with stuff in it. Because I do have a couple more pieces that have, they're clear, but they have the different pigments inside them. So I've got that little star set to cut out. I'll be running 100 millimeters, 100% power, 18 millimeters a second. And we're going to go ahead and run that and just see how that turns out. I think I've figured this material out as far as the cutting settings goes. So I think we can pretty much quit experimenting from here forward. All right. It worked. Settings were good. I got nice clean edges, no overburn, no staining. So that worked out really nice. And pleased with the result. So, little star, in case you couldn't tell what that was. But moving on along to the next pieces. I'm trying to just collect me a bunch of different little shapes here. Maybe we'll make something with this when it's all said and done. All right. Next up is this blue that has almost like glitter inside it. So let me find me another shape, because I feel confident, guys, that now that I have gotten this one shape, this one setting down, I feel confident that I'll be able to cut this stuff with no problem. Like I said, that's the benefit of a CO2 machine. I've done a heart. I mean, I guess we can do a triangle. I don't know what I can use the triangle for, but at least I can fit it in the corner of my material here somewhat. So first thing first, I'm going to capture me a close view because, yes, starting to really love that close view. It's a little more detailed and a lot more precise when it comes to placement of objects in the workspace. So I'm going to move that off the edge just a little bit. And for this cut, guys, as usual, I'm going to go over here to the cuts. And I'm just going to run that clear setting that I found earlier. It seems to be the sweet spot for this stuff. So, like I said, this is going to be another one of those pieces of material that I think is going to be primarily for cutting. But I'm going to try and engrave on this, I think, just to see. Because this is not as busy as the other materials are. Okay, good results as usual. Not a lot of like staining or anything around the cut. I can take and hit it with a little Windex. It has just a little tiny amount maybe right here on the back, but I do have it set to run air assist when cutting, so you know that could be a contributing factor. I have found sometimes it's actually better to turn the air assist off with acrylics, so you know, personal preference on that. But it came out nice. It's kind of a blue, almost transparent with glitter. So what I'm going to do is put that back in there, and I do want to see what engraving on top of the glitter looks like, because this isn't quite as busy, so I think it might actually contrast okay. So we're going to put this back in here to engrave something on it. The material is in there. I'm going to go ahead and delete my close view and get rid of my little triangle here. And I'm going to have to zoom way back out to be able to see my material here. Go ahead and get me a little close capture right there on top of the machine, on top of the material, so we can aim this a little better. Nice crisp view. Let's get that guy over here in the middle of the screen where I can zoom on in a little. And I think let's just put a letter. I just do some letter here. We will do a I'll just do it an M. Keep it simple. And put that in there. And of course my M's not going to be in the center of my work area. I've got to get used to that. So I'll just put an M in the middle of this, just a letter. That's all I'm trying to do is see what the engraving looks like. So I'm going to go to engrave. I think this is going to be basically just the same as clear acrylic. So maybe we'll just go with using their defined setting here for clear acrylic. I think that'll be a good way to go about it. So it's using the reference, it's using their pre-configured settings. Let me get this, try to align this. It's trying to fight me a little bit there. It's trying to snap it to that line. I don't really want it snapped, so I'm just going to use my arrow keys and scoot it over a little. Because a little known fact there, if you're trying to move it with the mouse, it will snap to the lines, but if you use the arrow keys on your keyboard, you can move it and it won't fight with you. So that's about where I want that, and I'm just going to engrave that M on there and see what the contrast looks like. All right, so after I hit it with a little bit of Windex, it turned out nice. This material, I'm going to be honest with you, the contrast of what the sparkles are in the background, I think this would do really good in some of those, you've seen the acrylic night lights to where the light shines up through the material and illuminates everything. I think that would, this material would actually be really suited for that, just because of the way the little sparkles are and all that inside there. But I got a good engrave. And while we're talking about that, I just want to make sure we go over something here real quick. Anytime the main material, let's say like the main material, I just dropped that, the main material is clear, because you're only interacting with the surface of the material, 90% of the time, if it, regardless of what it's got inside it, the settings for clear acrylic engrave will work because you're not penetrating through the material. Now, with the other materials where it has, like this one has the glitter in it, some of the other ones had a little bit thicker material. When you're cutting, that will make a difference. Two reasons. You're going to have differences in the density of the material as the beam goes through, because those little pieces may be thicker or harder, or they may not be as hard as the acrylic. So you're going to have to, adjust your settings there. But with engraving, for the most part, engraving acrylic is engraving acrylic. And to a CO2 laser, there's really not a lot of difference between transparent and opaque acrylics. So the engraving speeds, I think, will probably all run about the same. Some materials you can actually get a white finish or a gray finish running different powers and speeds, but for the most part you will be able to engrave them with the same settings across the board. And I think that's the reason this works so well using the standard 3mm transparent acrylic settings. But it looks pretty good. So off to the next color. All right. One more thing I want to point out, guys. As you can see right through here, what I do is I'll roll back that transparent film that's over the top of the acrylic, and I cut that off with a razor knife just to get it out of the engrave or the cut area, but not to expose the rest of the piece, to try to keep it from getting scratched up or whatever. So I would recommend you do that. I've tried it both ways, but it never fails that while storing your acrylic, it's going to get scratched up. It's going to happen. So on the next one, I'm running out of shapes, guys. This is getting a little ridiculous here. Let's see what all shapes we have. We can do I don't know. What do y'all want to do? We can do a leaf out of this one. That would look kind of cool. And let me go find my leaf. xTool, if you're watching, could we work on having the graphics come into the center of the work area rather than like the viewable work area instead of the overall work area? And while we're at it, let's go ahead and add that override push the button function in the settings, because I don't like that. So this is a little busy, so I definitely think that I need to go with the settings I did for the clear with confetti material. And so what I'll do here is I'm just going to go in and do an offset, and then I'm going to set this offset. I'll set it to engrave, at the same time. So that one's going to be set. I'll use the same same setting. Where's my acrylic? Gold mirrored. I'll use that same setting I did for the gold mirrored acrylic for the engrave, and I'm going to be using the cut settings for the confetti-ish type material, and we'll run this. Okay, so didn't work exactly as planned. The engraving part went well. That is definitely tolerable as far as the engrave goes. The cut, it lacked a little. So I have to line this one back up and go at it again and see if I can come up with the right settings this time. Not going to move anything. Like I said, I am using my little jig, so it should be fairly accurate in there as to where it was earlier. There's our refreshed image. So yeah, we're pretty close. Put that right there. Better yet, let's do it this way. Let's get rid of the engrave since we've already got that successful. We know what the engrave settings are. I'm going to oversize this just a touch and then kind of recenter it so I'm not hitting the same lines per se, but I'm hitting really close. Well, I can salvage this little design maybe. Alright, so last settings we went with was 100% power, 18 millimeters a second. So I'm going to slow this down to say 14. I don't want to go any slower than that. I think that'll knock it out of there. Once I see for sure that that's going to cut, then we'll go back and do another one just to confirm those settings. Alright, so that worked. Basically hit the same hole. They're, like I said, they're a little offset, so I had like a little spacer that is still attached to this. You can kind of halfway see it there. But there's the engrave and the cut, and you look at the back side, and if we were just cutting it out, that's what it would look like. So apparently there's a lot more glitter in here than I accounted for. So I'm going to go back, tweak the settings. We're going to do one more little cutout on here just to make sure that I've got the right settings, and then I'm going to add that to my material library. Alright, updating the overlay, and you can see our piece is missing now, so that's good. I plan on doing some projects with some of this material, so I don't want to waste it all. So I'm going to make a pretty sizable little circle and kind of try to fit it right here in this corner just to confirm these settings one more time before we call it done. And I'm going to make that, let me make it circular so it doesn't mess me up, because a lot of times, guys, I'll think I have a problem with my machine because I didn't take the time to make circles actually circular. And so I don't want to trick myself today. Confirm that is 14. All right, guys, so I got a clean drop on that piece. Nice, smooth edges. Not a lot of overburn or anything. So I'm going to call that the proper setting for this material. And we're going to go down into XCS and update our library with it. All right, so what I'm going to do now is basically I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to go ahead and save this. And like I said, my first little name is the material type. This is going to be pink glitter. There we go. All right, guys, I don't want to chew through all the materials today. Like I said, you can see there's the blue acrylic. You've got the mirrored gold. Wound up, we did the heart out of this confetti material, as well as the little leaf out of the pink glitter type acrylic. Did an engrave on it. So there's lots of capabilities and possibilities with this different materials. Finding the right settings is pretty key. But if you get acrylic that resembles this or similar to this, then these settings would be a good jump off point for you to use. But like I said, just pull back the little corner, do a couple of little test burns, and I like using the corners like that because 9 times out of 10, when I draw something out in XCS or Lightburn or whatever, those corners are almost always leftovers because whatever it is too big to get into that corner. So that's why I like to try to use those for my testing and stuff. But updating your material library is very helpful, and if you don't find it easy to keep up with the similar materials and which ones are going to cut like others, then by all means, create an entry for each individual material. That's probably the best way to do it, but like I said, I've gotten familiar with the machines, the way they cut, the way they interact, and most of the time before I start a job, I'll hit that corner and just test my settings real quick to make sure, because things can change with materials. I mean, just because this material that I got, these settings work good, your machine, your environment, even your material may have ever so slight the differences, and it could be a little different for you. But I don't want to spend all day sitting here cutting out just little things out of acrylic that I'm never going to use. So what we're going to do, guys, I'm going to hang on to that stuff. If you guys have ideas for something that you'd like to see me create using some of this acrylic, and I still got plenty of it, all right? So I got other colors, but most of the other colors are things that I've seen done on other channels, and it's once you find the settings for acrylic, it's pretty easy if you have the appropriate machine to just start blasting stuff out. So I don't want to sit here all day just knocking out little trinkets now that I've got a good idea of the settings for the material. But if you'll drop an idea down below of a project that you would like to see me make out of acrylic, or something that you're thinking of making yourself, and maybe we can try to come up with a video and use some of these materials that xTool sent me to create something that that you guys would like to see. I am not the idea guy when it comes to stuff like this. Wood stuff, okay, but acrylic stuff, not really the idea guy. I'm thinking the earrings might be a cool thing to have. So I'm probably going to go on Amazon, find me some earring hardware, because I don't know nothing about earrings, and maybe play around with some of this stuff and try to make Brandy some decorative earrings, or the kids some decorative earrings to wear sometime this spring or summer. So I hope the video helps, guys. Like I said, xTool sent this pack out to me to test out. They should, if they don't already have them on their website, they should have these materials available on their website. There will be a link down below. That is a Clack Shack link, and it will let them know that I sent you, and they'll send me a little something to help pay the power bill and give me something for my time. So if you do want to order some of the material, use the links down below, guys. If you have any questions, go over to Facebook and follow me on Facebook. You can message me there. I try to respond when I can, but just keep in mind, guys, I still have a day job. So Monday through Friday, during normal business hours, it's probably not going to get a real quick response from me. So, but I will respond as soon as I can. But until next time, guys, I hope this helps. I hope you, if you were kind of wondering if the P2 was right for you and acrylic is the name of your game, maybe this will help. And I'll also drop links down below for the P2. If you're interested in getting one of those, use that Clack Shack link. So till next time, guys, be safe and have a good day.